What's that?
Welcome. This is Ann White, your host, artist on the air, and I am so pleased to bring you to British Columbia to the owner of the Red Dog Glass Studio, Helen Kovacs, who is an artist not only with glass but with metal. So, Helen, thank you so much for taking time to join us today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. It's an honor that you've even asked me.
I learned from Helen, but we'll talk about that later, how she's an inspiration to me as a glass artist. I think the best way to get to know Helen is to look at some of her works, to look at her studio, and then we'll chat after we've had a chance to examine the wonderful pieces she makes. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is Helen. Helen, tell us what the heck you're doing here.
Working.
You are on fire.
It's me working the torch. I have a couple of glass torches, and the bigger one here is Bravo and Bethlehem torch. And I use it mainly when I work with boro glass. And for me, this is my happy place.
I'm going to tie it together with this one. So here, what are you doing?
I'm welding. I make garden art and all kinds of things for people, custom work, and I incorporate glass into these pieces as well.
Helen, how did you get started working with welding? And probably that leads into torch work as well. So where did you lose your fear of fire?
Well, I think it was 1985 or something. It was so long ago. A friend of mine had said, I think you'd like to do glass work. And I had done stained glass before, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll look into it. And local college was offering a 2-week workshop in glass blowing. So I thought, well, I'll sign up and see what happens. And off I went, and oh my God, it was the best experience ever. I found my passion there. Basically, I came home, I quit my job, and I went to art college. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Okay, so that's when you got brave, here. That's brave with fire, and then now some welding. I think your dad also got you into this part too, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is my dad and I did lots of pieces together. He was a welder by trade, and I was taking welding in art college there, but I learned way more from him. And we did several actually commission works for people's homes and offices and things. So I was grateful and so happy that I got to work with my dad for years welding.
And speaking of your dad, this is a picture, a glass painting of your father, right?
That's right. Yeah, I worked on that piece as my father was starting to fail, and he had kidney failure, so he had lived a good life, and I'm glad that I had him in my life. He supported my creativity very much, and I wanted to do a piece honoring him. So this is all glass, and I like working with line work a lot. I find it very expressive, and it helps me express my emotions that way.
And I think people would not even understand that this is glass. Tell us about this technique.
So this is, in the painting with glass that I did the 3 years with Narcissus, and he really encouraged me to move forward with the stringer work that I was doing. So I pulled a lot of stringers at the torch, and then I also assemble them in the kiln and melt them together to create different patterns like grid-like shapes and lace and ways to describe line. And I mix it with crushed glass, or I mix it with strips or broken glass to get the lines to move even more. And I find that's the best way for me to describe an image.
This is just beautiful and poignant. I think, not knowing your dad, but I feel the life of him through this.
Thank you.
And then speaking of your parents, we've got your dad here again. Hopefully it's your dad.
Yeah. It's my mom and dad. My dad passed, and going through his things, I found one of those little, when you went in a photo booth and you got your photo taken of my mom and dad. So my mom would have been 20 there and my dad would have been 22. And I thought, I'm going to try to make that out of glass. Yeah, I found in working on these pieces, I found myself discovering myself more too, because with each and every line, as I was building these pieces, it made me look at it more and the cultural past that I came from, but also even just the basic fact that, boy, I look like my mom and dad.
Now we're going to go to something very different. So coming from the glass portraits, this is also your work. It's also glass. Why and how is it different?
Well, this is the vase, of course, I made with fusing, and it was slumped. But all the flowers in there's borosilica flowers in there, and there's ephedra flowers, which is Italian glass, which is a softer glass than the Boro. So you can do some very interesting pieces. I find with Boro, you can do a lot of interesting pieces because it's much more forgiving than the soft glass is. You need a lot more heat to work it, but it seems to be easier for building sculptures. And that, whereas with the soft glass, you have to keep it in the flame quite a bit and it moves around on you. So it's a whole different experience and a kind of a learning experience. I find working at the torch is kind of mini glass blowing, right? Because I
Mhm.
was trained as a glass blower and I don't do that. I don't do that anymore at the furnace, but I find that working at the torch is the closest thing to that for me.
Okay, this is beautiful. Let's go on. This looks like you're in a happy place. Tell us about this picture
Yeah.
and these pieces.
Yeah, I was working that day, so I mean, excuse what I'm wearing, but I had just finished putting these panels together. This was a big commission that I did for someone's home in the Okanagan here, and they're all welded flowers with the glass inserts in them. So this went on their balcony. Yeah, it was a big project, and I love doing this kind of work because not only is it physical, but you're adding beauty to people's homes.
And where you're standing looks like a place you would get inspiration from. It's a beautiful place for you to be.
Yeah, this is my home. Yeah. This is my view. I go across that field every morning and go up into the woods for a walk and I call that my walking meditation. It's my time to connect with myself and think creative thoughts.
Beautiful, Helen. And here's another piece that again is you have what a range of pieces and types of art. Tell us about this piece.
This is the Dream Garden. I started making a garden series fused glass years ago, actually, and it's developed quite a bit. And it's going to change even more because after working with Narcissus, of course, I'm starting to make my own colors and different shapes. So those will be used for the flowers as well. I find very joyful because when I'm working in my garden, I think about how can I bring the beauty of my garden into the homes of my clients. So I came up with the garden series to do that. And I do all kinds of things in this. This is art, of course, but I do smaller pieces like this too, which
Like
help pay
this.
the bills, right? So I think I have two people, yeah, I'm one person that does the production work and then the artist who pulls the art out of me. So I feel like two people sometimes.
Indeed. And these are the pieces you oftentimes sell at is it a market I see you go to?
Yeah, I go to local farmers markets twice a week and then I do shows as well. So I do have people who collect this series of work and they love it. And, it makes me happy when they come to my booth and stand there and look and this big smile comes on their face. So I'm grateful that I can bring joy to their lives.
These are beautiful. So here is Red Dog Glass Studio Gallery. Give us a little background on this wonderful place.
So yeah, I'm very grateful. This is a wonderful glass studio. We built this glass studio for me about 8 years ago. I had a rickety old one that was an old greenhouse beside the studio for many years. And so we went all out and built me this shop, which I absolutely love. I'm grateful every day when I open the door. Um, and the red dog came from a funny looking red Bouvier cross dog that I used to have. Really smart dog. So I decided to name the studio Red Dog Glass Studio.
I love it.
And my location is in the forest. It's a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place to make art. All right. So that gives our viewers a little bit of a range of your work from when you've got the fire, when you do metal, when you paint with glass. You have mentioned Narcissus Quagliata. What effect did meeting him have on your artistic journey?
Well, basically, I found my true voice in glass with the help of Narcissus. I've been doing glass for over 30 years, but I was following Narcissus at that time too, and I knew who he was. And that when that opportunity came along, I jumped at the chance. And I'm so grateful that I did because he's changed the way I look at glass, but not only the way I look at glass, but the way I look at life. There was a mind shift that happened taking his classes. It's encouraged me to really follow my heart and make the things that I love love and make the things that I know and the things that I connect with.
And along that,
Yeah.
right, you use glass or glass uses you as a way of self-discovery, of, looking inward. Can you share how glass has shaped your journey of self-discovery I'm going to leave it with self-discovery.
Okay. Glass is when I work with glass, it's when you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, that good feeling, you know? You don't get that very often, but I get it when I work with glass. It inspires me so much. And not only that, I call glass a cruel mistress because I work so hard on her and I do so many things. And then in the end, she breaks or she doesn't work out the way that I want her to, you know? So she teaches me not only patience, but to question, why am I doing this? And what am I doing? So I'm thinking about those things when I'm working, especially on the art pieces where I'm trying to send a message of love, or even in a landscape piece, a message of nature or something like that.
And how has nature inspired your work? It almost seems obvious because we see your gardens and your flowers, but when you walk in nature, how does that work with your creativity and your inspiration?
Well, when I'm walking in nature, I take my phone with me. Back in the day, we never had that luxury. So I stop and I look at those little things, those little details in nature, you know, that tiny little mushroom or that little ecosystem growing in the stump of a tree or something. And I look at those shapes and those colors and, the moss and the bark. And I think I can make lace like this and I can do the bark like that with the frit and the stringers. And so it helps me to connect. And I take pictures of those things and come back to the studio and do drawings. And, it also helps me sort of ground myself, when I'm going through times that aren't the greatest, which we all go through. Nature helps me just breathe.
I love that. You said you used glass. Maybe it was just the piece you did of your dad, but of working through the grief of losing him. What about the glass helped you work through that or process it in a different way?
Well, it helped me with each line that I created in his face. It made me look at his life and all the memories and all the things that, I'd experienced with him, but all the stories that he told me of what he went through to come to this country and everything. And I found all that in all those lines that I was creating and all the lines in his face and the shadows, and all that really helped me explore all those things, which made me feel better about it. And no, I mean, I cried lots when I cut myself, I burnt myself, and I cried, but it helped me work it all out, work through it. And yeah, that piece is more than just a glass piece to me.
I can see that. And even though, like I said, I didn't know your dad, but I can feel the passion, the love from that piece that you infused in it. I'm thinking of infusing. I read an article about you where when you do commission pieces, you say you like to infuse them with joy and inspiration and wonder. What goes on as you're creating these pieces that you do that?
Well, if I'm working on the garden pieces, I'm totally in my garden. And, I take detailed shots of my flowers and think of those colors, and I'm mixing the glass together. And also, I'm doing sliders and mixing colors in there and chunks of glass and frit and stringers and all that, and making the glass move so I can get some different color combinations, because nature is absolutely amazing in her color. Her palette is, I still don't think I have that nailed down, but I'm working on it.
And where I met Helen is through a class with Narcissus Quagliata, and it is called Painting with Glass. And you are a coach for all of us in that class. What's your coaching journey like?
It's wonderful. I'm so honored to be here. I learn as much from the students, I'm sure, as they learn from me too. And it makes me feel really good too when I help somebody to work through a piece and at the end they've created something that's, amazing. And they're so happy. And not only that, sometimes, they're working through a journey too, and you get to go along with them on that journey and help them through it. So it's very rewarding. Yeah. And I think that, we're kind of at the forefront of an art, well, I don't know, movement for lack of a better word, because fusing is still kind of in its infancy, really. So what we're doing is so new that it makes me feel good that I can inspire others and help them come on board. Even when I teach classes, some people get hooked, right? And they go out and buy a kiln and get the glass, and you just say, "Welcome to the family."
Exactly. And glass is, I think, different from most other kind of art materials because she is a difficult mistress at times. Don't you find you have to go with glass sometimes because she's not going to come with you when you're trying to create something? Maybe more so with your
Oh
toys.
yeah, yeah. I was just going to say I totally learned that as a glass blower, because you can't really. I mean, you can force her and manipulate her into places, but really, if you go with the flow, so to speak, you'd be surprised with what you come up with. Yeah, sometimes you do have to just let the glass be the glass.
And when you talk about flow, again, glass is an interesting material to create with because it comes up, it's hard, and then you make it flow, and then you change it again. So yeah, going with the flow is a journey.
Absolutely. I tell my students, glass is a super cool liquid, right? It never stops moving. So it's a very amazing material to work with, especially when you go from a solid to a liquid to a solid again.
Well, you are an inspiration to so many of us, and as a coach, very helpful. And it's just wonderful to see the breadth of your glass journey. Where are you going next? What's your future journey in glass looking like?
Well, I hope to continue coaching because I really enjoy that a lot and just continue to explore the work that I do. I'm very interested in line work, so I will be doing more pieces like that. I'm working on a portrait of for my godson. He got killed many years ago here. And for his family, I'm working on a portrait of him, and I've infused some of his ashes in there too. So I do lots of work like that. And I find that incorporating the new techniques that I've learned from Narcissus is very important. And so the flower series will move more into using more of that kind of glass work. And of course, I love doing the sculptural pieces. So the glass itself is going to evolve and change a bit from where I've come, which is all part of the growth journey, right?
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. I love that. And that's why I asked, because I'm at the point of looking, wow, there's so much I'm going to, the path we take with glass that leads us in a lot of unusual directions. Well, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. You are an inspiration. It is wonderful to see your work. Anybody who's anywhere near British Columbia, stop in at the Red Dog Glass Studio.
Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that very. I'm happy to be here.